welcome back to Inbox Academy YouTube channel. Today, I am super excited to introduce you guys to an incredible business owner. This is Miish Grixti. Am I saying that right, Grixti?
100%. Yeah, you hit it.
Miish is a marketing coach and she is amazing at email. We're going to get into all of that. But I just love everything that you do. And to introduce yourself, can you tell us, how do you describe yourself and what you do?
Yeah, I describe myself as an ex-copywriter and launch strategist turned marketing coach. So I started in this world, in the online world, as a copywriter and doing project work for clients. And around the same time, I started my writing certifications and things like that. And so it was a beautiful mix of early on getting to work with coaches and support them with their copy and things like that. And then when I decided to make the move of, hey, I wanna get into this coaching stuff, it was this very rude awakening of like, oh, I need to start marketing my own shit because the copywriting business has grown very organically and through referrals and word of mouth and things like that. So it put me in this really enlightening position of how different it is when you are marketing your own thing and it feels so close to you and it feels so personal and all of that. And so yeah, these days I get to bring that the copywriting and strategy and all that knowledge along with the that part that is related to how you relate to yourself and your offers and your belief in the value of your work and visibility and how you show up and all those things. So yeah.
Which is it's so fun because like that's kind of what your clients are struggling with, right? And then that's what
Yeah.
you went through that own your own journey at the same time as then being able to really like pull them along and
Mm,
do that stuff.
yeah.
And I'm obsessed with how you market your business. You just bring so much like authenticity to it, I feel like. And I love the energy behind it. Which is definitely something that wanted to talk to you about because you talk a lot about business energetics on like your Instagram and stuff like that. So how does that fold into everything for you?
Yeah, I think of the energetic side as like that for every action we do, there's an energy that's fueling it. So one of the coaching concepts that I'm trained in and that I use, it teaches that your thoughts create your feelings and your feelings fuel your actions, and then your actions create your results. So in the thought feeling lines, if you think of that as like that combination is what is your energy behind your actions. That that is such a really like a really powerful place to start when you're looking at your actions and you're wondering why it's so hard, or you're looking at your results and you're disappointed with that. Going back to the energy that you're bringing into it, you're going to see is every action I'm taking being fueled from, fear and scarcity and like, oh, this isn't going to be enough, or this idea isn't good enough, or this is going to, why I'm going to sound salesy and desperate, or when all of that energy is the predominant energy that's fueling the actions, you're going to end up with a different result um, than when you're bringing like an intentional but believable thought and belief, something like, um, what I have to share matters, and this is really valuable for my best fit client. All of that is going to create a very different energy from the former. So that's a very simple explanation of how I think of the energetics part.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like it's so true when you're marketing your business and especially like client acquisition type stuff. Like you were saying, oh my gosh, like writing cold emails. I just think about that with like the energy behind it is so tangible. And I see that,
Mm,
both in how I, do client acquisition and write emails, but also the emails I receive as a business owner.
yeah,
And you
yeah,
can really feel the intention behind it and or like the
yeah,
energy behind
exactly.
it. Yeah.
That's such a good example. I love I've used cold email in the past to build my business, and it can be cold email sounds like something that can be like daunting and feel crappy to do, but it can equally be something that feels so good to do and that you can do from from an energy of detachment, but also like fully believing in what you can offer and what that person stands to gain from working with you in that way. And I love how you talked about how you on the receiving end can sense it, because I think that's a big part of it too. The the micro and macro decisions that you make from whichever energetic state you're creating from is going to impact how it turns out, and it's also going to be felt on the receiving end. So yeah, it's this thing that I think in the past I would have passed off as like, oh, that seems a bit intangible. But the more time I spend, not just in business but in life, I'm like, oh, there's you can sense that energy in the interactions you have with people in your day-to-day life, in the emails that you read in your inbox. And it's a very fun skill to like attune yourself to if you're not already. So yeah.
So how does that take, or how do you kind of take action with that in your day-to-day life? Like as a business owner,
Mm,
where does the energetics show up? Like what actions do you take throughout your day to kind of work with that?
yeah, that's an excellent question. I want to start my answer to that by sharing I definitely have a human brain that is not wired by default for like, you know, being in this really like abundant, generous, um, love-fueled energy that my human brain, that's, I mean, you could argue that's our default state for humans, but human brains are much more negative prone. And so in my day-to-day, it's going to mean um, spending at least 5 minutes of my day doing self-coaching. And what that looks like is brain dumping the thoughts I have. So you can either do that with something like your remarkable notepad or, you know, a piece of paper in front of you. I use a platform called 750 Words, which is based on morning pages where you like just stream of consciousness write for 3 pages worth. And that shows me like what is going on in my brain, what are the default thoughts going on, and it's extremely enlightening. Even if you only write down like 3 default thoughts, and by default thoughts I mean 3 things that you're just noticing that your brain is thinking without having been conscious to it until that point. And then once you see that, you can do a simple model, which is what I talked about, where your thoughts create your feelings drive your actions create your results. So if I notice a thought like um, let's choose an email one. um, if I notice a thought of like this is going to sound salesy, then I ask myself, what is the feeling that my body creates when I believe the thought this is going to sound salesy? It's probably, well, I'm curious, what feeling does that create for you, Audrey?
That
If you had the thought of like,
cringe, right?
yeah, yeah, it's like this retracted
Yeah.
and almost some for me like the feeling of shame is so strong. So sometimes it's like, oh, if I, you know, there's shame or resistance or something like that in the feeling line. And then in the action line, it makes sense that I'm going to be procrastinating or avoiding or writing and then rewriting or overthinking and over editing or looking for a million different templates and going to AI and asking, you know, trying to avoid actually doing the writing myself. Um, and so that piece of awareness is really important to see what's going on for your default thoughts and beliefs and energy. And then the next step is getting clear on on how you actually want to feel. So if I want to feel committed or I want to feel proud or I want to feel generous, then what thoughts would I have to be thinking and more importantly believing to create that feeling? And yeah, it's one of those practices that it can take as little as 5 minutes, but it can shift things very quickly. And it doesn't mean you need to spend like hours meditating just to get into a more powerful, energetic state to write and create and show up from.
I was about to ask, I was like, "You do this in 5 minutes?" I assume it takes some practice to get there, but, yeah, I can see, like, the power behind that for sure.
Yeah. To be fair, I'm like, if I'm doing the full 750 words, that takes me like 10 to 15 minutes
Yeah.
of like, but the actual practice of writing you know, that self-coaching model, it's got um, the lines I talked about. It's also got a circumstance line at the top, which I, I won't, it's not really relevant for this, but that's 5 lines you're writing down. And then the intentional model or the intentional energy and thought is another 5 lines. So it can be that quick. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Mm.
So yeah, we were talking about energy being tied to thoughts and things, and another aspect that you talk a lot about is mindset reframes. So that's kind of what you were
Yes.
getting at, I think, right? Is that model of, the thought to feeling and all of that. But yeah, how do you practice those? Is that the same thing, the mindset reframes and that model, or is that a slightly different skill?
Yeah, I see them as one and the same, but the really important piece of it is that a reframe and all that mindset stuff, it's it's very different from simply like affirmations and saying nice sounding shit. Like the most vital part of the work is finding a reframe, which is a thought or a belief that you can actually believe. So what that might look like is, instead of, maybe if you're going from like, this is salesy, no one is going to want to read this, it might feel like way too far of a jump to go from like, people love reading my emails and I have infinite value to share and the value just drips off every sentence I write. That might feel like an insurmountable jump to go from and to, but perhaps there's a bridge thought or a bridge belief that you can definitely get on board, that you can like feel your bodily response to. And maybe it's something like, chances are there's at least one person who'll be thrilled to read this. Like maybe that is a believable belief. Maybe it's something different, but it's so important to find something that doesn't just sound nice, but actually resonates, and that you notice um, you notice your body respond to. Because if your body's not responding to it, then there's none of that energetic benefit actually occurring.
That so much because I think in this day and age, like there are so many affirmations just kind of thrown at us and like told like just do this until you believe it and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
And yeah, so many people have tried affirmations and say, well, that just doesn't work for me. Like my brain just rejects
Mm,
it. And it's so
mhm.
important to recognize that there is that stepping stone and that like, yeah, there are ways to find a reframe.
Yeah.
That and sometimes you just need help with that, right? And that's where like a coach is
Yeah,
incredible at helping you find the stepping stones that can feel like energetically in your body. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. And it's one of those things that took me a bit to get on board, because I think my brain was like very all or nothing. Like, oh, if I can't believe this delightful sounding belief, then this bridge thought, what good's that? But it's like that, the results and impact that you get from a bridge thought that you actually believe, that's much more useful and helpful than your default thought or belief. Like that can just open up a whole new world and just bring so much more ease and delight and joy to your day, rather than struggling against, you know, these default thoughts just running in the background.
Oh my gosh, love that so much. So, how do we apply this to email some more?
So
Like,
good.
where do you see it come up in your own? Because I love your email list. You're like one of a few marketers that I open like every single email. So I definitely know that you're finding that positive energy, and I know that's kind of what you coach a lot with your clients as well and everything. So yeah, how do you kind of find that playing into email marketing in specific?
Yeah, I think for email marketing, so I'm thinking specifically for like my um I guess like the regular emails that I write to my list. I mean, all my a majority of my emails will have some sort of sales call to action. So I want to be explicit with that. But then I also think of my emails as there are ones that are kind of more story based, where I'm um, sharing something that's happened to me from my life or day, usually most recent 24 to 48 hours kind of thing. And then I have perhaps like more direct to the point sales emails. But both of them, the energetic stuff still applies in that uh, if I go into it thinking that I need to convince someone, thinking that no one wants to read this, thinking that or lacking belief in the value of my offer and things like that, I'm going to have a very different experience of writing those emails, not to mention how those emails are likely to be received. Um, so when it comes to sitting down to write those emails, especially for the story-based ones, I'm asking myself like, what would delight me first? Like if I forget that there's, real business goals and things attached to this, and I just put them on the shelf for a moment, like, what is it that I want to talk about? Like, what is it that interests me? And that's just a very quick, easy way for me to drop into like a very open, detached, playful energy, and I trust myself and I guess the skills I've built in copywriting, that I will find a way to make that relevant and make that connect to the call to action that I want to make. So yeah, I call it like delight fueled marketing, because if you can shift your relationship to writing emails to, instead of it being something that you dread or that you overthink, to something like, oh, this is something fun for me, and I know I'm going to have fun expressing this, or just finding like what it is that I feel some sort of tug or pull to share about some interesting or mundane part of my life from the past 24 or 48 hours, then it shifts your relationship to communicating and showing up, um and I think that in itself is so valuable.
Yes. Yes. Very good advice. I actually like I realized that I kind of do a lot of that naturally without even
I
thinking
bet you
about
do.
it, but like it's incredible to put words to it. Um
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
tell me, yeah, what do you notice about your process with what I shared there?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely do find that I have to be excited about the topic, right? Like I just
Mm,
have to have that energy of wanting to share it. And I often like, I might brainstorm a whole bunch of tips that I think would be valuable to my subscribers. And if I just sit down to write and I just look at that list, it just like it just drags me down so hard. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't want to just
Yeah.
like write this tip. Like I need to like make it fun, or just like I have to be excited about it in the moment. And oftentimes that does mean that a lot of my best emails, the inspiration hits me actually when I'm not sitting down. It's
Mm,
something that happens throughout the day or something like that. And if I can just get those initial thoughts into like my notes app or something like that, then and then when I sit down to write it, I am excited because I can take back that energy moment kind of that I had
yeah.
when the inspiration struck, and
Yeah.
that is when I do my best work, I think. So I can of
100%.
course like usually, sit down and brainstorm something and become excited about it, but definitely like pulling from a list of tips is so hard for me to then just like sit down and write that email and make it actually feel valuable and engaging to somebody for somebody to read.
Yeah, I love how you describe like that lightning in a jar moment of like when you capture that inspiration and you can go back to that feeling of like, yeah, this I have this desire for it. And and I think there's so much I think there's so much value in strategy and things that are sensible and all of that. But I think so much of the value is like having that in your subconscious and having that in your skill set, but but prioritizing the desire piece and like what lights you up and what you find entertaining or what would delight you, because that it's gonna be so much more easier to access. And like you just said, like you sit down and you're like not forcing yourself to do something because you should. You're like, oh no, this I already have existing belief and joy and delight in this idea, so that's the path of least resistance, and that's what we're going to take.
Yay. I love that so much. Do you have any advice for like thinking back to your copywriter days when you're writing for another person? I feel like this can be
Mm.
a little bit different to try to find that energy behind it. Yeah, I'd be
Yeah.
curious like what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think when I think back to that, I think a key piece is knowing your client really well. This might differ if you're writing for like a brand rather than a solopreneur or a personal brand. But even then, maybe it's like the founder's voice that you have in your head or something like that. But I I would spend like a lot of time, or maybe not necessarily a lot of time, but I would take the time to try and uh, like think of them and feel connected to them in terms of like reminding myself how I understand them and know them and relate to them as a human. Because once you do that, then you can find the parts of you and the ideas that you have that they're likely to have anyway. So where there is that kind of like authentic match between the two. And then I think a lot of it is trusting that the the nuance and specificity of like the human experience is actually like pretty universal. So if you have what seems like a nuanced specific idea for something and you're writing for a client, uh, yeah, trusting or seeing how it could be something that they would actually share or that would be relevant to them, and yeah, seeing how they would be delighted to have you share this very human thought that they could very likely have too.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I like to include like really specific examples and stuff in my copy sometimes. And if it's something that
Mm.
I want to be, personal to the client, a lot of times I just highlight it and comment on it and say, like I've given you an example like from my life here, but why don't you replace
Yeah,
this with your personal experience? And it's like so the structure's all there, all the writing's there, but they just get to kind of like tweak it to truly make it their own. And I
yeah.
love having that kind of specificity in there and bringing them into the copy. Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
and I think actually that idea that you shared, where you purposefully have things for them to fill out and to inject their personal experience, I I think the other upside of that is that um, clients they love handing things off, but they also love to feel as though they had a part in creating it, like it's got their energy in it. And when when your copy is too perfect, you might have had experiences where clients kind of just suggest changes for the sake of it. But yeah, having those parts where you're like, oh, insert this thing here, like that gives them that opportunity without their brain having to find issue or fault or some other suggestion to make to subconsciously feel like they, have had a part in creating it too. So
Yes. Yeah,
yeah.
and I think another part of like the energetics that's great with especially being a freelancer, and I think it's something that people kind of forget too, especially like real beginners when they haven't really had a client yet, is like you get to choose your clients. And so for me, it's like I work for businesses that I'm really excited to promote. Like I genuinely
Yeah.
believe in what they sell. And I mean, even as simple as like little products, like I helped write ads for a brewing cacao company. And
Yeah.
whenever I sit down to write their copy, I like brew myself a cup of cacao so that I can sit there with it in that moment and I just like get excited about the product and all of it just all like flows that way. And I think that that's really important too, is like to sit into that belief that like you do love this client and want to get it into the hands of other people.
Yeah, and I think actually I love how you shared that because I certainly found it easier to inhabit like that energetic state, that powerful energetic state when I was writing for clients, because like you said, like it's you know, you remind yourself, or you're working with clients who you already believe in, you like, you see the value in what it is that they're selling, that you're selling for them. And yeah, I find it much easier actually to drop into that state. So yeah, I love how you described the fact that you get to choose who you work with, and you get to make it easy for yourself in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's actually harder to do for yourself a lot of times.
Yeah, it's a whole, I feel like it's a new skill set once
Mm.
you're doing it for yourself. So it's not that it's gonna be hard forever, but it certainly has required uh like reminding myself that I get to use all of my personality and meanness and uniqueness and and all of that makes me me in my business, and holding the paradox of like, whilst that is true, like my business is separate to me, my my worth is separate to me, my business is my business, and I'm a human that's bigger and beyond that. So whatever outcomes or results that get reflected back to me from like using my personality and voice and showing up as me doesn't doesn't make anything true or untrue about me. It's still just this part of me. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's been the big learning curve for me since selling coaching and marketing my own business that way.
Yeah, such a powerful kind of revelation to come to. Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
for sharing that. Well,
yeah, my pleasure.
so what are you working on now and how can people find you?
Yeah, so now I offer private coaching. My private coaching series is called Own Your Brilliance, and it's very much about embodying that energetic state where you are full of your own energy and and taking action from the person that you know you want to be, and how that goes on to impact the clarity and power and effectiveness of your marketing, and how it shifts your relationship with you and your offer and your best fit clients. And yeah, the best place to find me is my website, which is www.miishgrixti.com. And yeah, that's me.
Yeah. Don't forget to follow Misha on Instagram too, because there's wonderful cow videos on there.
There
And
it is.
literally
Yeah.
makes my day every
It-
single time.
yeah. For context, is because I happen to live on a Tasmanian dairy farm, which is just like a fun side fact of my life, and that's why there's cow videos.
But it's like the best thing.
Oh, so good. I
Yeah,
do I do love cows.
and we will link all of that information down below in the description. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll see you guys later. Bye.